It's 5 o'clock on Saturday night. Time for another episode of Erik Wait Whiskey Studies Live. Alrighty, so tonight we're doing Bruichladdich Distillery. Posted my video a week ago on the Port Charlotte. Oh, should have had it up here before. The Port Charlotte Islay Barley 2012. I don't know if you noticed, but I had the wrong bottle on the thumbnail for that video. It shows up in the intro, but it's on a thumbnail, and someone pointed out, "Hey, Erik, you got the wrong bottle on the thumbnail." Boom, I was able to fix that. But anyway, but in the notes, it was the right whiskey. Oops, it happens. You know, I made these stupid little mistakes. But that is not as bad as what I encountered when I went to compare that whiskey with these whiskeys. And we're going to get into that tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. So tonight we got, say hello to a few of the crew. Uncle Nate drinks whiskey. Answering my poll, have you ever had a whiskey cork or cork break in whiskey bottle? And he says he keeps extra corks. So answer the poll. I'd like to get some stats if you've ever, because I'm going to talk about that tonight. Joe, thanks for tuning in. Good evening, Erik. My name's spelled with a K. Please remember that. Bruichladdich Islay Barley 2011 in my glass. Grumpy old fart. Good thing I had a corkscrew. Richard, how you doing? Ironically, the cork that broke was from my bottle of classic laddie. This is not ironic, and it's not a coincidence. This is a trend. I think this is a trend. It's a common problem. In talking to fellow whiskey tubers, is a problem with Bruichladdich Distillery. And Dirty Dog, hello from Colorado. Thanks for tuning in. So one of the things I like to do in doing a whiskey review, and this is all off screen, is on reviewing a whiskey, I will then compare that with other whiskeys from the same distillery, or perhaps with similar whiskeys from another distillery. So it's a peated sherry cask. I might, compare it with another peated sherry cask. It's bourbon cask. It's whatever it is. I might even compare it with Irish whiskeys, in comparison. So I do that off screen. And what it does, it gives me an opportunity to go back and try other whiskeys from that particular distillery, which helps me to better understand not just one particular whiskey, but the profile and what is typical of that distillery. Only way you're going to know the character of Ardbeg is try all the Ardbegs. The only way you can know the character of whatever distillery, Bruichladdich, Kilchoman, Kalila, whatever, Macallan or Aberlour, or any, they try a lot of whiskeys. So when someone says, what do you think about this particular distillery? And if I only have had one whiskey from there, I say, well, I've only had this one whiskey from that distillery. It's not until I've had a whole bunch of them from that same distillery that I have a better general over understanding of the distillery. And you can kind of see or taste, smell a signature of that distillery. That, there's going to be variances in casks and age and so on and so forth, but if they're coming off the same stills and it's the same master distiller, so on and so forth, there's going to be certain common characteristics with that whiskey. So I like to compare. Anyway, so hey, Bad Axe Bourbon, how you doing there, neighbor? So what happened was, I thought, well, this would be a good opportunity to go back to this bottle. Let me show you the notes on this bottle that I'm going to be talking about tonight. Go up here to this. All right. This is the Port Charlotte 2007 CC01 Islay Single Malt Scotch Whiskey. It was distilled in 2007, bottled in 2016, finished in French oak cognac cask. It's non-chill filtered, natural color, 57.8% alcohol by volume, 70 ml. You can still find it. I know I did not pay this much, for about $190 if you search around on the interwebs. Right. So that's what I'm going to be tasting and talking about. I brought these bottles back from Islay Distillery when I visited back in 2018. So there's a whole nother video which I shared in which I was talking about my trip to the distillery. So when I went to do a comparison, I went to take the cork out of this bottle. As you can see, I currently have a rubber cork in there because, and here is the cork that was in it, it broke. It broke. Now, I was beyond ticked off when that happened. Corks in some wines, particularly red wines, have a purpose. Corks breathe. And so where spirits no longer age, more or less, once you put them into a bottle, wines continue to age. And Bordeaux, for example, Bordeaux is one of my favorites. I like, for a good Bordeaux, I like to sit on it for 10 to 15 years or buy them with 10, 15 years on them if I'm not going to age them myself, with more age on them, because they continue to mature. They continue to develop. Your primary characteristics of a wine or whiskey are from the base ingredients. Your secondary characteristics are from the production process, and your tertiary characteristics come from the aging process. For wine, most of that aging is being done in bottle, although a year to 18 months or so could be done in cask. For whiskeys, all the age is in cask. Once it goes in the bottle, that's it. Since all the aging has stopped for a spirit, there is zero, nada, zilcho, no good reason to put a cork into a whiskey bottle. Now, a lot of fellow whiskey tubers spend a lot of time complaining and ranting about E150, caramel coloring, and chill filtering. E150 puts something in the whiskey we don't want it in it. Chill filtering takes something out of the whiskey that we want in it. For sake of clarity, they're removing some flavors out of a whiskey. E150, in order to get some sort of homogenization of color from bottle to bottle, or to make it look more than what it is. And so we don't want either one of these. And my fellow whiskey tubers harp on this all the time. As much as I don't want E150 in my whiskey, and I don't want, those good flavors removed from chill filtering, I've never had a bottle ruined and undrinkable by E150 or caramel coloring. This is a much bigger issue that my fellow whiskey tubers, let's say particularly Ralphie and Roy Aquavite, I think need to harp on more. They do more rants than the rest of us. And Rob, Whiskey in the Six, and Jeremy, because they do have a whole show called A Rant. Rob, Whiskey in the Six, Jeremy, Sipper Social Club. If you haven't already, do a video in which you rant on this subject. I know Matt over at Whiskey Crusaders has a hilarious rant on corks, and Matt's got probably 10 times the amount of whiskeys I do. I'm sure he's running this many times. So I have this poll running. I want to know if you either watching on the replay or live tonight on the chat, have you had a cork break in a whiskey? And if so, who was the producer? What I didn't know, and I started interacting with some fellow whiskey tubers, is it seems that breaking corks in the whiskey is common with Bruichladdich. Now, I've had it with the bourbons and the whiskeys, but it seems to be Bruichladdich has an unspoken reputation for this happening. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about. I'm going to open this one. These two the same. I'm going to open this one in just a minute. Put this outside. So, when I removed the cork and it broke off here, and there was the remnants inside of the bottle, there's typically two things you're going to come across. Either it's a dry cork and it broke because it was dry and brittle, or the cork was dissolving and it was soft and crumbled like mush. If it crumbles and it was soft like mush, that means the cork was dissolving while sitting in the bottle, merely from the alcohol. Particularly, this is at 57.8%, if I recall correctly. 57.8. I had a headspace about this much between here and where the cork was at, because I'd already reviewed this whiskey. I'd already drank this whiskey before. Because it was mushy, when I went to try to remove it, some of it just dissolved right smack dab into the bottle. I got a filter. This is common with old wines, particularly port wines. So I've run this before. I have an apparatus for removing corks, particularly from old ports and old bottles. And I'll show you. It's a fancy thing, and I don't expect anybody to run out and buy these because they're somewhat expensive. But hold on. I don't want to hurt myself. Don't want to cut myself. So you can get one of these. This is called an asso. And basically what this does, you take this does or do's, is you go down the side of the cork like this, side of the cork. You then pinch it with your fingers and you pull out the cork inside. This is called a Durand, D-R-A-N-D. And it combines a wine cork and an asso. And so what you can do is twist this in through the center of the cork. If the cork is totally crumbling, you might make it worse. But I'm just saying, if you have an old bottle and it's not broken in like that, that's the best time to do it rather than take a chance with a regular cork puller. Is you put this through the middle, and then you put this down the side, and then you use these. So this is putting external pressure, and then you pull out like that. That's how I use a Durand. So if you have one of these, potentially you could use one of these to help remove a cork from a wine bottle. If not, you need a regular wine cork remover. This is one of the best in the market. This is called the Chateau Leguil. Probably the best in the market. This is a foil cutter. This is razor sharp. Yes, you can cut yourself seriously with that. Be very, very careful. And you can you have to be very gentle, very carefully. I mean, super slow. And you have to kind of, it's up to you and your skills to be able to remove. And when you start to pull it out, you kind of using your fingers to hold the cork together and try to pull it out. And hopefully you don't have any in there. Well, because the cork, it was essentially dissolving in the bottle. It wasn't dry and broke. It was dissolving. There was not only little fragments when I pulled the cork out that you can see floating around. In fact, there's still, I don't know if you can see that. There's still one on the side of the bottle. You're probably not going to be able to see that. Anyway, there's still a little chunk sitting on top here. But I then put the whiskey through a filter and basically decanted the whiskey, put it through a filter, and then cleaned out the bottle as best I could. There's still one little, no, I can't reach it. There's still one little piece sitting inside there. And when I went to taste it, my hope was, I hope the whiskey isn't bad. I hope somehow the rest of it is still saved. And basically, I just have to find some other cork or put it into another bottle, put it in a decanter, something. But when I went to taste it, I could smell it. You can smell it. And there's a sinking feeling. You're just like, oh, man. And then I tasted it. I'm not going to taste it right now because it'll screw up my palate. What am I doing? There's a strange bitterness on the back end. It's a nasty, funky bitterness. And the fruit characteristics, that's from fermentation. There's no fruit inside a whiskey. It's extremely muted. And so it's just nasty. This is now completely unfreaking drinkable. Undrinkable. Let me see some comments here. It's happened three times to me. Cragmore 12, McKinley Shackleton, both already opened, and Teeling small batch, really. When I first opened, the last one was a 2018 bottle. No, not Durand. That's a band from the 80s. Dusty Dan, how you doing, man? Long time no see. How you doing, man? All righty. So Dusty Dan, the name Dusty refers to the whiskeys. You're finding old bottles, at stores, that have been sitting there for a long period of time. If you have an old Dusty that you're taking off a shelf, you're probably even more likely to encounter this than if you buy something from a store that's fairly new. Dirty Dog, no more Bruichladdich than any other scotch. I have 400, 600 bottles, and I had to take corkscrew to 30 bottles or so when the whiskey broke. So I'm not saying Bruichladdich percentage-wise is more common than others. I'm just saying just from people I've talked to. Hi, all. Just finished a bottle of Abelard. That was done in both sherry and American oak. Love it. Yeah, I like quality price ratio of Abelard. They don't have an age statement, but I don't care. But yeah, I really like Abelard. Good stuff. Good stuff. All right. Now the question is, this is a bottle that I brought back that has not been opened. Same exact thing. Is this one ruined? That's the question. The whiskey's all the way up to here, all the way up, obviously, because it's a full bottle. Has it just been, from just sitting in this thing, has the cork been dissolving? Is the whiskey gone bad? That's a question. Tonight, when I remove this cork, is it going to break on me? Let's hope it doesn't. Let's hope it doesn't. So let me get the foil going here. I hope it doesn't, because I'm going to be a bit peeved if it does. Now, why would a distillery put these stupid corks in it? Screw caps work just fine. Most wines do just fine with a screw cap. It's because people have a stuck in their head that it needs to make a pop sound. It's something romantic about it. This is not champagne. We don't need it to pop. We don't need a from our whiskey bottle. But if you watch Whiskey Tubers live, they like to make a whole drama of it. Oh, that's a good pop. Why? Why is a pop good versus a silence not being good? It's no indicator of quality or anything good about the whiskey. It's just that, okay, we have smell, we have taste, and we want something visual. We can see it. We want something audio from our whiskeys. And so part of the thing is we want to hear some audio. And you see Roy do this, Aquavita did this. And then pour it in the glass, put it up to the mic and go glug, 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 glug. It means nothing. Now, if it doesn't hurt the whiskey, then I wouldn't give a rat's ass. Okay, fine. We get a glug, glug, glug. I wouldn't care. But the fact that maybe anywhere between 5 and 10%, according to one viewer here, of his bottles could be destroyed, potentially destroyed from a whiskey bottle, means, hey, knock it off. Somewhere between about 4 to 5% of wines suffer what's called trichloroanisole, TCA, commonly known as cork taint. Trichloroanisole, it's kind of like saying try cleaning your asshole. Trichloroanisole, and also known as cork taint, can also infect an entire winery. I've known a couple wineries that that's happened to them, and it's an extensive cleaning process. But it's sort of known and accepted. Oh, well, shit happens. But when you're spending hundreds of dollars on wines and it's sitting in your cellar for years and you have some special occasion and you're opening up a bottle that you've been holding on and reserving, looking forward to having one day, and you open it and it's freaking corked, or even worse, you took it to a restaurant, right? And you pay a corkage fee and now you're there and the wine is spoiled. It ruins the evening. I've had it happen. You buy, some first growth from Bordeaux or something like that. And you're just like, son of a bitch. Now, with wines, if you bought it recently from a shop, hey, I just bought this week. It's corked. I take it back to the wine shop. I've never had a resistance. If I bought it recently, hey, you can't say I bought this from you 10 years ago. That's not going to fly. But if you bought it recently, most wine shops, if you take it back, they will refund your money. There was a bourbon that I had that was corked. I got it at Total Wine and More. I brought it back to Total Wine and More, and he smelled. I can give my credentials so they know I'm not some schmuck who's trying to rip them off, that I know what the hell I'm talking about. and then they're like, boom, no problem. I mean, they didn't argue with me or nothing. They exchanged the bottle. But if it's a bottle that you brought back from Scotland and you're now 3,000 miles away and now several years have gone by, I don't know. All right. Drum roll. David, I like this. Stop judging cork pops by the decibel. It's the juice that counts. Exactly. All right. Let's say a prayer. Please don't let this whiskey be bad. Please don't let this cork break. Amen. Okay. Now, if you know there's a potential, don't twist. Don't twist as much as you can. Hold on, I'm gonna move the foil. Pull it straight up. If it's fragile, it's gonna break. It's more likely gonna break if you twist and pull. Pull straight up. So I'm going to, without hitting myself in the chin, I'm gonna try as much as possible. Shit. And when it's this tight, I'm gonna have to, you know what? I ain't gonna to try to lubricate it, maybe to get it to turn in case it is dry. I'm gonna do this as carefully as possible because I can't pull it straight out. It's too tight. Okay. It's loose. You can hear us going quick. Please. Careful. Yes. Okay, now we know at least it didn't break. Yay! It didn't break. So this is what the cork would have looked like if it remained intact. It's smelling good. I'm super sensitive to trichloroanisole, TCA. If a wine is corked, I don't even have to pour it. I don't have to. As soon as you pull the cork, boom, I can smell it. It's TCA, trichloroanisole. It's kind of like a wet newspaper, a wet basement, an old wet dog. It's a musty smell. And the fruit characteristics, either of a wine and apparently of a whiskey, it doesn't seem fresh. And it's bitter on the back end and a super short finish. All right. So thankfully, now, am I going to put this back in there? No. I'm going to have to find some other alternative. Now I'm going to try to taste it and let us pray. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a little bit in here since this is a neck pour and I want to let it breathe. I'm going to put a little in there and we will find out if it's bad. Fernando, how you doing? Thanks for tuning in. We will find out if it went bad after we take our quiz. All right, 6 questions. 6 questions. We will find out if it went bad after our quiz. In case you're tuning in late, this is the bottle I'm currently dealing with. This is the Port Charlotte 2007 CC01 Islay Single Malt Scotch Whiskey, distilled in 2007, bottled in 2016, finished in French oak cognac cask, non-chill filtered, natural color, 57.8% alcohol by volume, 700 ml, and currently, if you can hunt it down, about $190. All right, and let's get into our quiz. All righty. Question 1. When was Bruichladdich founded? A, 1815, B, 1817, C, 1824, and D, 1881. How about replacing it with a synthetic cork? Synthetic corks don't have as tight as a seal. A real cork expands and contracts, which gives you a tighter seal. Synthetic corks don't. So they are a different type of risk of letting in too much oxygen. But I'll get into that in just a second. All right. So 1815, 1817, 1824, or D, 1881. I will continue that discussion in just a second. And the answer is Bing, 1881, since 1881. Now, there's a sense in which, yeah, it was originally founded in 1881, but if you look at how many times from the notes in my previous video, how many times it opened and closed, opened and closed, and opened and closed. And when Mark Rainier, if I pronounce his name correctly, was influential in the distillery, he changed the character of the distillery coming from the wine world, and he took a winemaker's sense and approach to dealing with barley and making whiskey. He then got on to Waterford, and now he's doing Waterford, same thing over in Ireland. That's a completely different philosophy in whiskey production, and they have maintained that even though he has left. There's a sense in which, we'll get into Kilchoman this next week, there's a sense in which Kilchoman does that as well with their 100% Islay barley, but just maybe not as nitty-gritty in narrowing down the specific farms. They combine all the farms, but they do a local barley. All right. If you hear a rumbling sound, that's my next door neighbor's motorcycle. All right, question number 2. Which is Bruichladdich Distillery? A, B, C, D, or E? And I put a little arrow next to A and E so you know which one I'm pointing to. Which one of these is Bruichladdich? So a good geography question. Is it A, B, C, D, or E? David asks, should you clean out the neck brought back a Balcones from TX and sticking? You know, it's kind of probably a judgment call as to why it's sticking. I kind of moistened the neck and then before I pulled the cork, and that might have helped a little bit, but I don't know. So Duke says C, Doug says D. Grumpy Old Fart says E. And the answer is C. So D is A is Ardnahill, B is Kilchoman, C is Bruichladdich, D is Bowmore, and E is Lagavulin. All right, next question. What does the name Bruichladdich mean? And it's not Bruichladdich. It's Bruichladdich. And somehow you pronounce both the D's. So you maybe roll the D's. Bruichladdich. I know. I'm not a Scotsman, but they probably roll their R's. Is it A, Bray of the Shore? B, Small Promontory? C, the beautiful hollow by the broad bay? Or D, foot of the river? Foot of the river. Dirty Dog says A. Mauricio Pacheco says C. What does Bruichladdich mean? Now, all of these are names of distilleries on Islay. But only one of them is translated into Gaelic as Bruichladdich. And the answer is B, A, Bray of the Shore, Bray of the Shore. Next question. Who currently owns Bruichladdich? And I kind of gave this answer away if you were paying attention. Who currently owns Bruichladdich? A, Mark Rainier and independent bottler Murray McDavid. B, Beam Suntory. C, Burns Stewart Distillers. Or D, Remy Contru. I know my French is not that great. So who currently owns Bruichladdich? Well, people are answering A. Fraser says D. Maybe people want. Doug Christoph says he confused Bruichladdich with Bowmore. Oh, that's heresy. All right. The answer is Remy Contru. So Mark Rainier, I just said Mark Rainier used to be there. And I said he went on to Waterford Distillery. So he's no longer there. But Mark Rainier did have a major impact on the profile, the character of the whiskey. Remy, they're more well known for being cognac producers. Producers. Remy Martin, cognac. All right. What are we at now? Question number 5. What is the nickname of the Lohmann still used to produce botanist gin? Botanist gin? So Bruichladdich makes a gin called botanist gin, made from 22 local herbs, botanicals from the island. But what is the nickname for the still? Is it A, Heinous Hillary, B, Bitchy Barbara, C, Ugly Betty, or D, Delicious Debbie? Fraser says C, Ugly Betty. Heinous Hillary is someone completely different, but we won't go there right now. And the answer is Ugly Betty. Ugly Betty. So if you don't know what a Lohmann still was an experimental still. The idea was to create a still that you could adjust, to how you wanted to make the spirit, so you could adjust the plates in it. And so it was sort of a hybrid between a pot still and a column still that was adjustable. It didn't quite work out. There's still 2 of them in use that I know of. One is at Scapa Distillery up on Orkney. They use it, and as you just saw, Bruichladdich uses one. But basically, that's what it was. So they saved that still from, I can't remember what it is. It's still a distillery on the Highlands somewhere. I can't remember where. Maybe Loch Lomond still has one, but I could be wrong. I don't want to, just because the word Lomond's in, I don't want to assume that. They might. I'll have to Google that later. What is the name of Bruichladdich most heavily peated whiskey? A, Supernova, B, Peat Monster, C, Port Charlotte, or D, Octomore? Delicious Debbie is for Debbie Harry. That would be the lead singer of Blondie. She could have been called that, but I don't know. Anyway, so what's the name of Bruichladdich most heavily peated whiskey? Most people are going to know this one. In fact, I have a Octomore 8.1. Which I should finish. And of course, the answer is D, Octomore. All righty, so hope you joined that little quiz. The purpose of my quizzes are not to stump anyone, but to reinforce what we've already covered in my previous video. I think because so many distilleries have a very complex history of opening and closing. A lot of them closed, of course, during Prohibition, First, Second World War. It's kind of very common. And they get bought and sold and bought and sold and bought and sold, bought and sold. It would be very challenging to remember every little detail every time a distillery changed hands. So I believe generally you should know who founded it and who currently owns it. You should know their core range, basically. I'm going to, starting in 2023, a lot of the distilleries I've been covering in this series, I'm going to go over again with different bottles from those distilleries. And in those videos, as I continue to study these distilleries for the Council of Whiskey Masters, I will dive deeper into production, the production distinctives of these distilleries. It could be the size or shape of the still. It could be whether they have Dunnage warehouses, whether they have shell and tube or worm tubs, and so on and so forth. It could be maybe the distinctive barleys that they use, whatever it is, and memorizing their core range. So going into 2023, that's what I will be doing. By the way, I already bought my tickets. Ooh. Done. I got it. I can tell the nose. It's so good. Wow. Nice. So I'm going to pour, I'm not going to drink this, but just for better comparison on the nose. I'm not going to throw this away, even though it's gone bad, because for learning purposes, you want bad. No, I don't mean bad like you don't like it or you think they make a poor quality whiskey. I mean a whiskey flaw. I took a course in college when I was studying winemaking. It was a sensory analysis class, and you had to recognize flaws in wines, what the causes of them were, and when you're analyzing wines, and then you had to know how to fix them. So you got this particular characteristic in a wine. Is it caused from yeast spoilage? Is it caused from downy mildew? Is it caused from the cask? It comes from trichloroanisole. Is it caused from trimethylhydronaphthalene? Is it well, you learn a lot of long chemical names. Is it from Brettanomyces, spoilage yeast? What's the cause of it? And so I kind of want to do the same thing with whiskeys. So a whiskey with a whiskey flaw, I want to save that bottle, put it off the side so you can use it for learning purposes. I was actually talking about this with Daniel Whittington as an idea for a class. Moonshine University has a class on this. They don't have any currently classes available, but apparently they have a 2-day sensory analysis class. So the peat's there and the smoke kind of covers it, but there's no fruit character to it. It smells dead. It smells dank. It smells chemically. It smells like some sort of chemical. This has a barbecue smell to it. Bacon fat. Almost like you just finished cooking some bacon. You remove the bacon from the pan, and now you kind of smell the remnants on the pan from cooking bacon. It has that character to it. There's some vanilla. The freshness of the fruit is the predominantly main distinctive that you can tell between the good bottle and the bad bottle. Yeah, the smoke is there. There's a nice smoke wafting in there. I can smell a maltiness. Vanilla, kind of like canned peaches, apples, and pears. Wrapped in smoke and just a waft of bacon grease. Yum. All right, on the palate, because this is what really matters. It's 57.8 ABV. 57.8. So, I mean, it's quite a wallop, right? It very much tingles. It's got a bite to it, as you would expect. But tastes delicious. Tastes delicious. Yay! Yay! All right. Because I would be pissed if this was bad. Yeah, it's quite, I mean, in terms of the alcohol and everything else. Of course, that's the first sip as well. Hold on. Wow. What I need is a little bit of water. Hold on a second. I'm going to get some water. Hold on. Sorry. For your entertainment, oh, this video is not long enough. Sorry. That was Bill. Brother Bill, over the Whiskey Dictionary. I don't know if he knows I have that on here or not. One more time, just for giggles. Too damn funny. Too damn funny. He actually has a bottle, and all among the bottles he's holding there, he's holding a bottle of the Bruichladdich, basic laddie, the light, distinctively blue colored. All right, so I'm going to put a teaspoon in here. Just for shits and giggles, I put 1.5, sort of. All right. So there we go. There we go. I totally enjoy your Saturday evening broadcast. So relaxing and always solid on information with a hometown delivery. Cheers. Keep bringing it on, buddy. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Dancing whiskey dick. Wow. You have to pay royalties now. I probably should. I added the music, and with his, he just dances forward. I made him dance backwards, and then I added the silly music to it. So anyway. I might have put too much water. All right. So I'm currently planning a return trip to Scotland. I've already bought my tickets. I leave on July 1st, Saturday. I land in, I go to London. In London, you have a 2-hour layover and then go from there to Glasgow. So I will be, if everything goes right, Lord willing, I will be in Glasgow on July 2nd, 2023. I know, Eric, we're only in November. That's a long ways away, and you're already talking about it? Yeah, I know, because I'm excited. And I put a lot of preparation into it. So this will be my 3rd trip to Scotland. I've been to the Lowlands. I've been to Arran. I've been to Campbelltown. I've been to Islay. I've been all over Speyside. I've been up to Orkney. This trip, I'll bring it up. I want to find a good. I think I have a map here already. Do I have one? Yes, there we go. So if you look to the north, look to the left where it says Highlands. So anywhere see the word Highlands, anything to the left of that, to the northwest, that's where I'll be going. So I'll be going in those islands over there. I'll spend a week traveling around there, and then I'll head over to Speyside. That's currently what I'm planning, and then Speyside. So I'll spend basically 2 days traveling around the islands. Go to Talisker, Isle of Raasay, Tobermory, Torvig, Harris. Those are the distilleries I'll be visiting up there. Then heading back to Speyside and visiting distilleries I haven't been to yet. I'm currently working on a map. So back when I did my last trip, I took a SWA map, Scotch Whisky Association map, and I marked it up indicating which distillery was open to the public and which was not. And that was 2019. I took a look at that map that I had modified, and it was out of date. I started looking at distilleries. There's some distilleries that didn't have visitor centers, and now they do. Excuse me. And there's a couple of them, they still have visitor centers, but as of now, they're still closed to the public due to COVID. So maybe next year they will be open. So there's still a couple of those that are currently not accepting invitations. I will not start booking. Excuse me. I will not start booking visit to distilleries till, I don't know, 4 or 5 months, maybe out before I go. But really looking forward to it. Also, there's a lot of new distilleries in the Lowlands, so maybe hit a few of those as well. Really looking forward to it. So what is this whiskey like? Well, I described it on the nose. It's sort of apple, pear, canned peaches, a waft of smoke. I get a little vanilla. It has changed with the water. The smoke is much more integrated into the whiskey. It's getting, I would say, kind of like a milk chocolate character to it. Before, it was more of a wafting bacon grease character, whereas now it seems like adding water to it made the peat sort of go into the whiskey. How do you want to describe that? To where it's now more in the whiskey rather than framing on the outside. It's softer, easier to drink. It doesn't have quite the tingle and the bite of the alcohol. I would say I'm estimating the ABV now has probably been taken down to about 50 to 52. It's much more of a milk chocolate now. The fruit character that I was describing there is still there. So it's more approachable now, but I got to say, on the nose and palate, in terms of like that bacon grease character, I liked it better without the added water. Maybe I put too much water in it. I don't know. It's still very, 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 very good. But I liked it on the nose and on the palate without the water more. It's just now more approachable on the palate. It doesn't have that quite same tingle to it. So going forward, I will probably try to drink this neat and just take smaller sips because I love that bacon character. Now it's a gamble. Am I going to put this back in there or keep it out? This cork seems to be intact. Doesn't seem too squishy. I'm a little afraid of putting something. So I will not put this cork back in there. I will find something else. I have the problem with this. The problem is this size here isn't a standard size of, say, like a wine cork. You can take an artificial wine cork. So I'm gonna have to hunt around in my drawers or find something like that to put in there. This is a rubber cork. I'm more like putting this in there to keep aromas, to keep it from evaporating, than I am trying to preserve the whiskey. So this has a valve in it, and I can take, I have a pump that'll suck the air out of it, and it'll make this tight. So I can tighten that up using a pump on there. All right. I'm reading all the comments here. People talking to each other. Yeah, it's still warm at the time of the year, 12 Celsius nights, and the milkman's kid, whatever that means. Okay. Hunt around in my drawers. Not the ones I wear. I'm talking about in my kitchen. I have spare corks, artificial corks, and that kind of not in my drawers. Not in those drawers. Talking about the climate, it was 39 degrees last night. It is currently 52 degrees in Half Moon Bay. Oops. It's currently 52 degrees in Half Moon Bay, and it's supposed to drop down to about 43 tonight. All right. What I really like doing is sitting next to the fire with a blanket and a glass of whiskey and reading a book. It's one of my favorite things to do. And I've been doing that. I would say almost every night. I come home from work, pour myself a little bit of whiskey to taste, then have dinner. And then after dinner, finish whatever it is I poured myself and read a book. And then I go to bed. That's my daily routine. Though, so if you can hunt around, you can find this now for $191. Would I spend that much on it? No. It's hard to judge now prices on whiskeys because everything's going so crazy. I don't remember how much I paid for it. I seriously doubt I paid even half that much at the distillery. Of course, prices have shot up over the years. I think a whiskey like this is like good for $130. But compare the price of this whiskey, and I'm talking to Scotch Malt Whiskey Society. Compare the availability of this whiskey, the ABV, non-chill filtering, all those, it's clicking those things we like. but the quality of the whiskey, I would recommend, if you haven't already, if you haven't joined, it sounds like an advertisement. They're not paying me to say this. The Scotch Malt Whiskey Society, and see what they have that's comparable in price and in quality. So here is an SMWS. Are they using corks? Yep, they are. They're using corks too. Why? Now, I've not had any problems with SMWS. The main thing about a cork is the larger the cork, it's probably more fragile, and a smaller cork if you get a tighter pour. The issue is if you look at a cork, there's all you see these little dots. It's a natural product. Air flows through those dots. You could have, and then going through the center of that cork, potentially, basically weak points in the middle of the cork because there's holes in the middle of the cork. So, and if you have a high ABV whiskey, as these SMWS or all cask strength, it now makes me a little scared about all my whiskeys and how many of them have corks and potentially go bad. Quality cork, you typically get what you pay for. Cork basically is like a bark. They remove a certain layer from around the cork tree. Most corks are coming from forests in Portugal, at least in the wine industry. And so they remove a layer of, it's probably about like this thick, from around the tree. And then they take a punch and they're punching corks out of it. The corks get analyzed. They get sterilized. Sometimes some of the problems you're having with cork taint trichloroanisole comes from the sterilization process that they use to clean corks. And that is what is causing, so basically an infection in the cork, but that is infecting your wines or whiskeys. So distilleries don't need them. Producers don't need them. Screw caps are perfectly fine. If you were to combine an artificial cork with a screw cap, the screw cap would give you the tightness that you're looking for to keep from excessive oxygen, and maybe the artificial cork would give you the pop. However, so I've actually read a lot of articles on this, but only in relation to wine. Artificial corks, the chemicals, or what do you want to call it, that they use to make the cork themselves, that can cause a problem. They use a food grade glue. Another type of cork is a composite cork, where rather than it's just a punch into the bark, they take cork particles, sometimes it's leftover cork particles, and they basically mold it together, and they use a food grade glue. Food grade, you mean glue you can eat? Yes, or at least it's not poisonous, and they make an artificial cork. Just Google different types of corks on Google. You can also have a section where the bottom of the part that touches your beverage is a piece, and the part that connects to the cap is a piece, and then there's a center part in the middle, and that's the real cork that breathes. And so it's a composite by pieces, and then you can have a composite by particles. If I had thought about this, I could go into my drawers and pull out different types of corks, and I could show them to you. But I wasn't planning on doing a lesson on corks. But I have these different examples of these different types of corks. There are a lot of articles I've read in studying wine. You can find articles in Wine Business Magazine, which you can get online, that talk about this is dry material, that talk about the various tests and experiments that I've done and looking for what's the best. All of them tend to have pros and cons. It's a matter of statistics and the potential for something to go wrong. Personally, I have a bottle of Chardonnay that opened up from Fess Parker. Chardonnay from Fess Parker. It's a screw cap, and it was just fine. There's no pop. I didn't care. The wine went with dinner, and that's all I cared about. Is there a potential with wines with Screw cap, yeah, you can get what's called reduction, but that's a whole nother subject. But it's far rarer than cork taint. What is reduction? It's it's the way to describe it. It's almost as if a wine has been, as if it comes across as if moisture has been removed from the wine, and it's sort of the character of it is like if the wine is compressed. It's not becoming like a syrup, but it loses its vibrancy and it's kind of muted in that sense. It doesn't have a chemical character to it or an off-putting odor to it in the way that cork taint does, but it does seem distorted. However, the percentage of wines that comes from is far fewer than anything you have cork taint. Very rarely I've ever come across, in all my probably thousands of wines I've had, have ever come across reduction. All right. The milkman's kid opened my first bottle of whiskey with a clear rubber cork not long ago. Didn't like the whiskey, but I don't blame the cork, but who knows, not me. See, and this is probably all of my unpeated Bruichladdich have had the corks to start to disintegrate. I had to replace them all with Woodford Reserve corks. See, and the problem is we're not getting together and sharing our common bad experiences with the corks. And I'm sure nobody takes the time to write a letter to the distilleries. And so it's going unnoticed. But if the whiskey community collectively says, hey, we're experiencing this commonly from certain distilleries, then, because unless they hear there's a problem, they're not going to be motivated to make any changes. And so something, we need to get a trend. I don't want to be I don't want to be ranting against cork every time I talk about whiskey, because that gets boring, and who in the hell wants to listen to that all the time? But maybe I'll send an email or to Bruichladdich and say, hey, yo, this happened with me. It's happened with a lot of others. But if you're spending, this isn't a some $15 cheap bottle of wine. These are $100, $200 plus bottles of whiskeys that I can't easily replace. And it's enough of a financial sting that you're like, man, I ain't dealing with that. But then I start paying more attention to more and more whiskeys and go, wow, a lot of these have corks, and it's so freaking unnecessary. It's just mind-bogglingly unnecessary. Why are you spending money? And corks aren't cheap. Spending the extra money to put a dumbass cork in something that has a high probability of destroying the whiskey. It's just stupid. It's just moronic. I could use some fancy four-letter words. I'd like to, but I'm not going to keep this a little family friendly. All right. I'm going to do it. I'm going to taste the bad one so I can describe it accurately. A little bit of H2O. All right. One of the things I was kind of hoping is, could the cork effect dissipate with oxygen? In other words, maybe if I left this open and let it aerate, could that go away? There's something called, I mentioned it earlier, trimethyl dihydronaphthalene. And you say, what the hell is that? Trimethyl dihydronaphthalene, and most common with Riesling wines, usually in very cool regions, and it comes across as like a freshly opened can of tennis balls, a freshly cut rubber hose. If you ever see the Saw movies, sort of a plastic pool toy. That's how it comes out. That's trimethyl dihydronaphthalene. It's a long word. And wines that have that character, and I've had mostly in Rieslings, and some people, it can come across as petrol or kerosene. People more likely describe it as like being like kerosene. And some wines that have that character just decant the wine, that aerate, and it goes away. And it goes away. Is there a possibility? Because this has been like this. This has been open like this for a week. Yeah, for about a week now. Could the bad corkness, the cork taintedness, the spoilage, could it aerate and go away? Let's find out. It still seems muted. Like it's not as fresh and lively. I would say this. It's definitely reduced. That spoilage character to it is definitely reduced, if it's still there, over the last week. So this has had a week. So I did not tighten this cork. I didn't suck the oxygen. So it's been in the loose. So this has been breathing for a week. It doesn't seem fresh. It doesn't have the vibrancy of this whiskey, recently opened whiskey. It doesn't have the, and this hasn't had any water. Well, this one, I know this has had water in it. But it's not bad. So that's good news. I previously said this was undrinkable. I take that back. So potentially this is a solution. If you've ever had you have the experience on your own. If you've had a cork break and the whiskey tasted like, don't pour it out right away. There's no reason to pour it out. Some people might get pissed off and pour it down the drain. Don't. Let it air, decant it maybe. So pour it into another clean glass container and decant it. It doesn't taste as fresh. It doesn't taste as vibrant, but it doesn't have the bitterness that it previously did and that cork rottenness to it. But it also doesn't taste as good as this one. Yeah, hold on. Looking for another glass. All my other glasses are in the dishwasher. Hold on. I'm going to go back and compare it with just a little bit without the water. Yeah. The vibrancy of the recently opened one. Of course, this is like a Capitas. It's a different glass than a Glencairn. There's a zinginess. I could be making up words. There's a freshness. There's a vibrancy. There's a liveliness. There's a zestiness to it. There's a nice pop in your mouth of the barley maltiness. The smoked bacon grease character, if you like that kind of thing, is back. Wrapped in smoke on the outside rather than in the middle of it, and the freshness of the fruit and so forth. So this neat is better than this with the water in it. Just gotta say, but both of these are better than the one in which the cork broke. But I gotta say, I'm glad I didn't pour it out. I am going to find another container to put this in so it doesn't have this much headspace in it. You know what I'll do? I have a couple. I will put it. This is what I'm gonna do. I have these. I bought 60 of these. Taylor, he was a guest on here a couple weeks ago. We're going to be sent for academic purposes, shipping bottles back and forth. So these are the Tabasco ones. I'm going to take this, pour it into here, which has got screw caps, and to remove it from that bottle. And I will send him a sample of this and a sample of both of these. I'll mark them differently just to see what he thinks. I want to see what he thinks of it for academic purposes. We're hopefully going to probably start in 2023. We'll be doing live streams in which we're sending whiskeys back and forth of distilleries or of, say, a particular types. Could be a lineup of 3 that are all peated sherry cask, or they could all be from the same distillery, or all first fill bourbon cask, whatever we plan to do. And essentially, we're going to be studying live these whiskeys and doing tastings. So there'll be enough in this to taste separately on your own, sitting down, as well as to do something live with. But that'll be starting in 2023. So we're looking forward to that. Wow. So nice. Neat without water, and the range of flavor. The fruit, it starts off fresh up front. Get a little more of the vanilla and baking spices kind of in the middle of that. And then it's sort of wrapped slightly in bacon, and just this waft of smoke surrounding the whole thing. And then there's this distinctive maltiness on it. Just really, really, really nice. This, as it is now, is probably like, point score is relative. But because of the nature of the fruit, the development, the transitions through the mid palate, the length of finish, it has a medium to medium plus length finish. This is like a 90-point whiskey. This one now, the way it is now, is probably like an 82 to 83. With the flaw in it, it'd be like a 50, completely undrinkable. Anything below 80, bleh. It'd be a failing score, but that flaw has mostly diminished and gone away. So it's not just a complete loss. It's not a complete loss. It just has lost a lot of the vibrancy, the freshness to it, and that's typical of cork taint. All righty. So we're past the hour mark. This week I'll be doing a video on the core range of Kilchoman. And then next week, Saturday, we'll be looking at Kilchoman Distillery. After Kilchoman, we're probably going to do Highland Park, then Jura, and then wrap it up with Springbank. And that should take us to the end of the year. All right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you're watching on the replay, and if you have any comments and questions regarding cork and cork problems and whiskeys, leave them down below. Share this video with other people who have come into the problem with corks, who have questions with corks. And I would really like to see the conversation get elevated in the whiskey tuber community and elsewhere, to get more complaining. Not that I want more complaining, the more things to bitch about, but this needs to change. This is more, to me, this is far more important than E150, far more important than cold chill filtering, because neither one of those ruin a whiskey. This absolutely destroys a whiskey. So, all right. I want to thank everyone for tuning in for the live, and we'll see you again next week.